welcome to Talk Tantra to Me. It is such an honor to be holding space for this divine knowledge to make its way into your ears and lifestyle. I am so excited to be sharing a very special guest and episode with you today. Today, I spoke with Rita Pira. She is a holistic living expert and clarity and courage activator. I am so grateful for her content and so appreciative that she's here on the podcast to offer her perspective of living an expansive life. You'll get to hear a little bit in the episode of how Rita and I found each other, how we connected, but this is a podcast episode that very blissfully is shared on both of our podcasts. So that's why we're having a little bit of a special introduction. And honestly, we just really organically just flew right into a conversation. And it's incredible. I hope you enjoy it. So here we go. So should we do a quick chat about the topics that you want to cover or?
Yeah. So I actually love the idea of talking Tantra with you, and the fact that your Instagram is called Talk Tantra to Me. I love that. I think it's so freaking cute. It caught my attention right away. I went straight to your account and I was like, oh, she's cute. She's fun. I love her energy. I love her vibe. I love how she's showing up in the world. And I've been really curious and drawn into Tantra, especially since I was in Bali. And there's been this theme of it. And I immediately downloaded that book that you guys were talking about, you and Jolie.
Oh, amazing. So you found we connected through Jolie's Dare to Prosper. Is that?
Yeah. And you won't believe this, but this is how small the world is. My partner is actually, he has a house in La Jolla and he knows Jolie apparently. And this other girl was staying there and she knows Jolie and everybody is apparently familiar with her. And I was talking about, oh yeah, this challenge just came out of nowhere. I don't know why I joined it. I was curious about it. And then I didn't even watch or participate too much. I probably watched 3 or 4 of them. And then the one that I saw was about Tantra that pulled me in. So I'm noticing the pull. I notice energetically I'm pulled to it. And so I was curious when I was in Bali and there's ecstatic dance and there's this Tantra workshop and and I was ooh, wait, it's I'm noticing my energy kind of drawn to it. And so out of all of the modules that she had, all the days that she had, the only one I watched with experts was when you were on there and the other. Yeah, literally the only one that I watched. And I have this whole note thing. Before I even had the pull or whatnot to be hey, reach out to you or say anything. I have this whole page of notes, just literally writing what came through for me as I was listening to you. So I thought that would be really powerful to have this conversation just be strictly about Tantra and just our experiences of the way you came into it, who you were before, what it is that got clear for you to fully show up in this way so courageously, so authentically, so beautifully, so real and just raw and vulnerable and no shame and no guilt and nothing at all but pure authenticity and magnetism. And it's just that is what I want to pull out of people. And that's why I call myself this activator, because I bring out the freaking fire in somebody that's dimmed light. And it's just I turn it on and then all of a sudden they're oh shit, life is juicy. I'm dope. And then their confidence shows up and just everything changes. They begin to actually be themselves and give less fucks about what people think. And I want you to bring your juicy magic to help people that are listening to this episode, whether on your podcast or mine, to feel they have permission to do the same as how you and I are showing up in our feminine energy, our power, our sexiness, our whole full spectrum of and I heard you say on the thing, when you were talking about how you had just been crying or something. And I was bitch, I was literally face down in my yoga mat last night. And so I was yes, I love that. The realness, the rawness, the pure, the pureness in how you're showing up and who you're being. gives others permission to show up as themselves too. And that's what I think that we should bring forth, or it
Fuck
would naturally
yeah.
come out. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. You said so many nice words and also so many things that resonate so deeply with me. And also I'm just so honored that you like were so drawn to my guest teaching with Jolie. And I originally asked, you know, what do we want to talk about in this podcast? And I didn't intend like I didn't expect to hear such a vivacious, like beautiful answer that now I'm like, all right, we're starting the podcast there. So, so that being said, yeah, thank you again. And so excited to be doing this and just to see where we free flow, because I think that there's like such an overlap in the intention of our work. You know, something like holistic living, to me, there are so many practitioners that talk about like, do yoga and do meditation and it's holistic, but it's actually not really holistic if it's not addressing sexuality, because sexuality is the energy that brought us into the world. So it's, to me, you know, innately a part of every part of our lives. But I feel that so many lineages, so many mindfulness practices and movements kind of shy away from intimacy and sexuality and raw, deep feeling and crying and all of that stuff, because it's taboo and it's not necessarily socially acceptable and all those things. And so, yeah, I feel like we're on the same page with this, like living holistically, like truly holistically, including eroticism, sexuality, etc.
Yes, embodying every aspect of what it is to be human, and the fact that you are a soul having a spiritual experience in the human vessel. For me, holistic living is actually taking care of the vessel that you are living in.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, what are you putting in your body? What are you putting on your body? What are you keeping around your body? What are you consuming through your eyes and your ears and your mouth? This is the most crucial thing that activates your life force energy or dims your fucking light. And when you take care of where you live, you thrive. And when you thrive, you show up better. And when you show up better, you're more confident, you're more in alignment, you're more activated, you're more passionate. Your life is juicy and delicious. And then things open up that you used to think weren't possible for you. And even for me, growing up Middle Eastern, I'm Assyrian, ancient Babylonian, Mesopotamia, back in the day when the day was back, like literally born to be a mother, trained and combed through the system to show up, be a good girl, moralistic thinking, shut up, sit down, close your legs, get married, have kids, and then you die. Like that was supposed to be my life. And for me to even start a podcast and say the word fuck and get my mom to say fuck, that was fun.
Love that.
Yeah.
Ancestral healing.
Exactly. But it's so interesting because, like, for me to even talk about sex, it's like literally the entire Assyrian community and every single person who would assume I'm still a virgin because I'm not married. And they won't ask. They don't want to know the truth because then it fucks with their whole way of thinking.
Their whole reality.
Their whole reality. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the energy that you bring to this space. Like, so much liveliness. Like, that's all I'm getting from you. It's just like this radiating life force. And that's such a testament to like being the embodiment of your work, you know, like it's like I'm almost speechless because of the potency of the energy that you carry. I'm curious to hear more about like what does that look like? How do you work with people? How do you get them aligned to this like holistic lifestyle to come into this place of activation?
Oh man, that's a good question. Like I seriously don't even have a process because every single individual is so unique that you come to me and I hear your story. I feel your heart. I feel your energy. I scan your entire like aura and I feel where you're stuck. I can sense what it is that you need that's blocking you right now in this very moment that will just activate everything else. Because it's not about like it's almost like an audit, like taking inventory of your life, your story, where you're stuck, where you're blocked, and all of that. But then it's as simple as fucking starting your day with one of these beautiful, juicy green things. And I have
Yeah.
it in a wine glass because I don't drink alcohol. And so it's like, oh, okay, let me nourish my body. And when I do that, other things reveal themselves, other things open up for you. And that's when I start to guide them just intuitively with where it needs to be like a light shine on within each individual person. So it's really unique to each person.
Yeah, my work is quite similar in that Tantra, the word, Tantra is a Sanskrit word. Tan means to expand, Tra means to liberate. So, in essence, like my work is basically helping people find the path that is going to be most expansive and liberating for them and to help them get in tune with being intuitive and being in relationship to their body and to their process so that they can begin to be their own leader in figuring out what the next step is in terms of their expansion and liberation. So like what's expansive and liberating to one person can look very different, for the next person. And so, a lot of people associate Tantra, especially in the Western world, with sexuality and eroticism. And while that is a big part of the work, because we're working with the energy that brought us into the world, we're working with that life force, it is so much more than that. And so much more of my work is also talking about things like conscious celibacy and setting boundaries and things that like don't necessarily like equate to the sex tricks that people like immediately think of when they hear about Tantra, although it is that stuff too, which is really fun.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, wait. So much to unpack here. I love this so much. So you said the magic words, life force energy. I was like, yes, because that's the key. That is literally what we're made up of, right? And so
Yeah.
you mentioned Tantra and you explained the word and like broke it down, right? Tan means expand, Tra means liberate.
Yes.
And it's a Sanskrit word. And I remember you saying in the challenge that I basically witnessed you in, you said that it can mean something different to each person, and it gives you a lot of sovereignty and a not autonomy. And you're basically inviting people to consider, like, hey, what's the truth of the expansion and the liberation for you? What does that look like for you as an
Yep.
individual? And that's the key, because even with holistic living and like eating healthy, I'm not telling you to be vegan just because I've been vegan for 13 years and it's working for me. But your unique body is so different. It's so special that not one thing that someone else is doing is going to work for you. It's about exploring your own edges and understanding your unique body. Get your blood type figured out. What is it? Find out what things you're allergic to and don't eat them. Don't put them on your body and watch the magic happen. Like, oh my God, imagine that. How easy can that be? It's like getting the roadmap to your own unique, holistic, like experience as a soul here in this human vessel.
Yeah.
Exploring all the edges.
I feel that so much of like coming into that expansion and liberation or that activation that you speak into is really just like letting go what's no longer serving you, whether that be like the diet or the products you're using or the limiting beliefs that you have in your head or the trauma that's keeping you stuck. Like so much of the process and really the first step that I like use when I work with people is first getting clear on like what is holding you back, like what cobwebs are in the mirror that we get to clear out so that you can like actually see yourself.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It is that one thing that is the main thing that's in the way. And once you kind of break that down, then the next step appears or the road kind of clears. And usually it comes from our moralistic thinking that's been programmed from our childhood, especially like how I mentioned on Middle Eastern, right? So this good girl, bad girl, shameful. I was on a coaching call with somebody who was sharing about the fact that she's married and has two children, but literally cannot have sex with her husband. Like she is like, I can't. It's like so shameful, so wrong that she
Wild.
can't even do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's blocking you? It's because it's bad, it's dirty, it's shameful. Nudity is wrong. And it's like covering up your parts and all that. And it's like, even going to the gym and being in the locker room or something and like kind of hiding and concealing yourself. Like, is it that level for you? each individual is going to be different. I personally have been getting more and more comfortable with my body and being naked or showing myself the way I do on my social media without worrying about what people will think and the judgment. Right. And it's like
Yeah.
stepping into your power and really owning the fact that you're here to live your life, not for other people that literally when they're dead, you're going to look back and be like, well, shit, I literally did nothing because I was worried about what they would think. And now they're not here anymore. Now it's too late for me.
Absolutely. It's like, whose beliefs are these that you're consuming? It's just like food. Like, are you consuming beliefs from an outdated society or from like a belief system that you don't even resonate with? And what is that doing for you? What is it creating? You know, those feelings of shame and guilt are toxic. They're literally the most toxic thing, in my opinion, that you can consume or put into your body or tolerate within yourself. And
Yeah.
so, when we like release that, when we let it go, when we start consuming or choosing a different way of interacting with our body and our pleasure and our lovers, it's like the whole world opens up. Like for me, like when I started healing my relationship to my sexuality, like it wasn't just my sexuality that changed or became more empowered. It was like I started making more money. I became aligned with my purpose. My relationships to my family changed. My relationships to my friends and my lovers changed. It was like the deeper that I go into this work, the more aligned things become and the like more blissful and prosperous and, you know, like incredible life gets to be. And that's not to say that there aren't those moments of like, crunchiness, because there are. And to me, like I'm grateful to be at a point in my journey where I see those moments of crunchiness, like, you know, like you had mentioned on the Dare to Prosper challenge teaching that I did. Like I was crying right before it. I was like in the middle of a breakdown, but that breakdown was like actually like a big breakthrough for me, because it was this realization of like, okay, like I say that I want this abundant life, but what is this abundance giving me? It's giving me this sensation of being like stuck and not like I have an abundance of things, I have an abundance of opportunities, I have an abundance of connection and love, but where is the balance? Where is this sense of like regulation and easefulness? And that's really for me where prosperity comes in. So it's like being able to alchemize those like breakdowns or those things that aren't working is also just like so critical.
So good. Oh my God. I'm just curious, what was your primary limiting belief that you had to overcome or break through? Like, what was the main thing holding you back from being this epic, beautiful goddess version of you that is showing up so fully and authentically and divinely in her purpose?
It's so sweet hearing you say all those things, because like the honest truth is that like yes, I am all those things and I'm still so much on my journey and I'm still so deep in the process of working through my limiting beliefs, and the further I go into the work, the more I realize is left to be uncovered and processed, and it's this journey and it's beautiful. And I think that the one big thing to answer your question, and it's something that has come in layers for me, is around worthiness, like feeling like unworthy of being seen, feeling unworthy of love, feeling unworthy of abundance, feeling unworthy of like just having a legitimate human experience. Like I've felt, you know, over the years, things like, you know, if I share my messiness, if I share my vulnerability, then I'm not going to be seen as, you know, a good coach or professional, you know, or, you know, lots of unworthiness in my partners, tolerating toxic patterns and behaviors, you know, unworthy of just taking a fucking break, you know, from my work to nourish myself. And so that's something that like started as like a really big piece, and like that onion, I just keep peeling back layers, and there's always another level and another layer for me to go deeper into that worthiness wound. But I would say that's probably like been the biggest thing for me.
So, how do you, especially for people that are listening, that they're struggling with the self worth, they're struggling with showing up. They're afraid of being seen. This was my thing. I was so afraid of judgment. Worrying about what people think was in my programming, so deeply rooted that I even hid from social media for like 8 years. I wasn't showing up. I was like, oh, out of sight, out of mind. I moved from Chicago to Arizona. I just literally loaded up my car and drove 26 hours. And I was like, I'm out of here. I got to start a whole brand new life without people from my high school or elementary school or cultures, Christian, Assyrian, whatever. Nobody knew me where I went. I got to start from scratch and was off of social media. Then I find out somebody's talking crap about me. And I'm like, how? Why is my name in your mouth? I'm literally hiding under a rock. Like, if you go scroll back to my social media from 2010, where I first went raw vegan overnight and all this shit, it's crazy because I wasn't even showing my face. I was dressing modestly. I was being like just so out of sight, out of mind. And when I found out that someone was talking about me, I was like, well, fuck. If you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, you might as well.
Yep. That's such a good point. Chills, mic drop.
It's true. And that's when I started showing up, but it was still scary for me.
Yeah.
Because then it was like, oh, I don't want to bring shame to my family. It was, again, that whole be a good girl and don't dress like a whore and keep your legs closed. Yeah. All of that is so deeply rooted in our mindset, because 95% of the time our subconscious is running the show. And that was created from our youth, like from age 0 to 7, even up to 14, you are creating this blueprint of how you show up in life.
Yeah.
And what you will allow yourself to do, be, have, whatever, right? So how is it that you overcame your fear of showing up, your fear of being seen, your fear of being heard or judged or whatever? Like, what was that turning point? What was that moment for you that you were just like, fuck this shit, I'm going to be me?
Yeah. So again, layers and layers. And I also, again, want to be really real that like, it's still something that I struggle with, but at this point I have enough evidence of the positive impact that comes from pushing through that fun, comfortable vulnerability hangover. Like, to be honest with you, after I got off the Dare to Prosper challenge, okay, so first of all, I'm guest teaching on Jolie's course and I fucking love her and I look up to her so much and just admire her. And so she asked me to be a part of this and I'm so honored, right? And I'm like, I'm going to be like so nourished. I'm going to go into this like my highest self. And then as we've, talked about, like I ended up actually having a huge breakdown right before. And I then like shared what was going on for me in that teaching. And literally as soon as I got off the call, I was like, did I overshare? Was that too much? And I voice noted Jolie and was like, was that okay? But it's amazing because like it actually is what connected us. And like that's such evidence. Earlier today I was on a call with one of my sacred intimacy mentees and we were talking about messiness and like allowing our messiness to be seen. Like being messy is so vulnerable. Showing our like raw emotion is so vulnerable. And I was guiding her through a rage ritual, which is basically like letting out that sacred anger, pounding pillows, really like releasing a lot of, that like deep emotion that's set within us. And so I was basically demoing it for her during the call. And it's like crunchy. It's like kind of crunchy to just like go into like that level of expression in front of someone. But of course, like it's my duty to do it. Like I know that this tool works, or it's worked for me. So if I don't share it with the world and share it with people that are like begging for the answers, like what am I even doing? Like, what is the point of life? Like, what is the point of connection? Like dimming your light is such a disservice to yourself because it's like you're not really experiencing life, but it's also such a disservice to the world. And so yeah, I shared with her like, yeah, it's vulnerable for me to show you the side of me. And like I recognize the power that's here. I recognize like also my contract really. And I think that like that fear can keep so many of us from like stepping into that power and stepping in as leaders, but it's just so necessary.
Yeah. Gosh, that gave me chills because it's funny. I just posted something on my Instagram maybe like 20 minutes before we got on this call. It just came through and it was about taking that first step, noticing when you have some sort of inspired idea, something lighting your body up, the sensation, just
Mhm.
feeling that full body yes, and acting on it by taking whatever first baby step it would be to bring it to life, to activate it, to just give it literally life force energy of some sort, bringing it out from your mind and your heart into the physical realm for the universe to take it and do something with it. And that's all you have to do. You don't need to know the how or like what it's going to look like or anything like that, because I'm sure that you, when you first started, you didn't see yourself setting up sushi parties to eat off of models.
I didn't.
So how did it evolve? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So for the listeners, Rita is referring to also something that Jolie called out on the Dare to Prosper challenge, which was that I'm now hosting play parties here in Austin. And at one of the recent ones, it was a naked sushi themed. And so I was like trying to find like a woman to be the quote unquote sushi model. And I had contacted like a handful of women to do this, and it just like wasn't aligning with all of them. And at the end of the day, I was like, this is a sign. I'm meant to be the sushi model. I'm going to do it, which was hard because I'm such I really like to have control. And I especially like it's my event that I'm hosting. And of course, I have support. But for me to have to just lay there while like guests are coming in and like I can't move because the sushi's on me. Oh my God, it was such an initiation into surrender for me.
Wow. Holy
Yeah,
shit. First of all, I didn't know you were the model.
I was.
That's fucking epic. And I'm just like so happy to hear this because of the fact that I know what it's like. I've run retreats, I've run events and things like that. And I know what you're describing, the control of like wanting everything to be perfect, hosting, taking care of everybody, making sure
Yep.
everything's going right and all of that. And the fact that you had to just lay there and let it be. Wow. That takes a courage and trust and true surrender.
Yeah, I'm
San Diego,
honestly
this is
like
gonna be beating.
even sorry, what?
No, I'm saying I'm San Diego downtown, so you're gonna hear like beeping and things like that.
No stress. My dog's like chewing a bone right next to me. I think that this mic like cuts out things pretty well, but sorry if the listeners are hearing that gnawing sound. But yeah, I mean, honestly, even just thinking about the experience, like remembering that moment in my body where I was laying there and people are coming in and I'm covered in sushi and I literally can't even like sit up, let alone like laugh. Because if I laugh, the sushi might fall off of me. And like, I'm a nervous giggler. So when I'm nervous, I start giggling. But even now, just like tapping into that moment, I'm like a little bit like, ooh, I'm a little bit activated. Like that was
Wow.
a sensation for me. But you had asked what it took to get here. Like, you know, you had said like, I'm sure at the beginning of your process, you didn't see yourself in that position. And it's so true. Like, I mean, when I first started, I had such debilitating imposter syndrome that like I barely even begun. I think that our society really perpetuates this belief that we need to have a piece of paper that qualifies us to like do a thing in the world, which is like all valid and fine. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of us can get stuck in the like cycle of like, what's the next certification I need to do to like be able to do my thing? When in reality, like, as long as you're a couple steps ahead of like the people that you're working with, like you're good. And part of the process of like becoming a master is like doing the thing and learning from the experience of being in leadership. And so when I started, like I had like one core offering and then like I slowly added on things. I slowly launched the podcast. It was like you get to like expand your orbit. Like, you know, when you first start in the space of stepping into purpose, you're just like a little seedling and there's only so much available to you. But as you begin to water that and grow it, like you're sprouting new branches or new stems every day. And like you suddenly you have this like really lively, vivacious like plant. And I just made up that metaphor, but It makes sense for
It's
people.
great. No, it's so good. And we're so in alignment with like everything you're saying. I'm nodding my head. I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. Like we say similar things, if not in the same way or with our own little unique twist, but it's just so beautiful to receive from you. And I feel like everything not only happens for you, and in a way that is just so divine that you're being guided to what it is that your purpose is all along. Like if you look back at the breadcrumbs that you've been receiving in like different jobs that you've had or things that you took an interest in or things you're naturally good at, it's like sometimes people, and I speak from experience, like I have so many things that I want to do and create and put out into the world that I'm overwhelmed by all my ideas, and I'm overwhelmed by how big that mountain is that I want to climb to the top, and I see it so clearly, but I look down at my feet and I'm like, fuck, it's far away, and never mind, I'm just not going to do it. And then you don't take action and you just have this dream forever. And so like, how did you know Tantra was the thing for you? How were you noticing the messages, the nudges, the little breadcrumbs of guidance to get you to where you are right now?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because it definitely was like, I feel like there were so many breadcrumbs before it became time for me to really step into this as my passion and as my purpose. And like, I would say like the journey kind of began in my early 20s when I had like a lover that had like some practice with Tantra. And I was like, wow, like there's nothing special about this man other than the fact that he's like bringing intention and real connection into the space, and he's calling it Tantra. And like, I mean, he wasn't even someone that like I was like my type at all. He just had this like special essence, and that's it. It's life force. His life force was activated to a degree that like was vibrating me higher. And so there were like all these little breadcrumbs, but it wasn't until I had been like really studying Tantra or like learning about Tantra on my own for several years before people really started to see me and to see the shift from who I was to who I became, like where I came from to what I was creating. And that's when I started to have people ask questions about it. And I started to just feel so like excited about what I was learning, what was happening for me, that I organically began just like, overflowing with it into my life and into my way of being. And there was specifically like one turning moment for me. And that was, I had this, before this work, I was a freelance creative. So I did like freelance writing and marketing and photo shoot curation. I did freelance modeling as well. And so there was this photographer that I did some creative directing for, as well as I had modeled for, and I had done like really beautiful, like classic nude artwork for him. He wanted to open this gallery in Carmel, California. And we had become like, he originally hired me as a model. Then I started doing creative directing for him. And over time, like we became like really good friends. And in some ways he was like a mentor to me. He was like, even in some ways, like a father figure. And he also just happened to have this really beautiful, like American dream come true story, in a way that he was like an immigrant from India, and like he ended up like becoming like one of the people that built like, I can't give away too much details because I want to maintain anonymity, but he created a product basically that we use like every day in a way. And so he had like just this incredible level of what's the word, like credibility for me. And so yeah, basically one night, like we were hanging out after a photo shoot and I started doing tantric body work on him, and he was like it blew his mind. And he had a big catharsis, had a big moment of like healing his inner child. I really connected into his heart chakra, shared that I was feeling a block there, and it just was like doing my magic intuitively. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never really done like tantric body work before that. I'd given like sensual massages and like was attuned to energy, but it like, and I also wasn't meaning to do it. Like I didn't go in with the intention of like doing tantric body work. We were just hanging out, and I just happened to, offer support really organically. But he had this incredible breakthrough. And the next day he texted me and was like, hey, that was insane. I've been to therapy for 20 years. I've been to psychedelic shamans. I've been to tantrikas. you like really merged all three of those. You have a gift. You need to be doing this professionally. And I remember like feeling so much like fear and shame and like guilt. I was like, was this sex work? Like, is this okay? You know, so many stories came up, and he also paid me. He was like, I'm going to pay you what I pay my therapist, which was like a decent chunk of money for me at that time. And so I had a lot of imposter syndrome about it, but over time, you know, we continued to connect, and he like really became my first like mentor and coach. And within a few months, I started taking clients by referral. And then maybe about a year later, I launched the podcast, and then, yeah, it just slowly built out from there. What was your turning point? Like, how did you know that like you got to step into your passion and purpose fully and make it like your main thing?
Wow. Well, first, before we go there, I just want to celebrate the fuck out of you
Yay.
because it takes so much courage to be in the field that you are in, right? And like, it's just interesting to trust yourself, go with the flow, and allow it to unfold the way that it did. That is the magic in what you did and got to where you are right now. And God knows what's coming. And it's so exciting. And like, just keep trusting and keep going and keep flowing and let it unfold. And it's like a full body yes in the direction of where you're being guided. And you can tell when it's a yes. When you go to your head and you start to think about things like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? You've already lost. You have to convince yourself back to like the yes again. And this happens with people when they're getting ready to like invest in themselves in some big way, right? Like I had this retreat come my way that I was just feeling really pulled to it, and the magic of Bali and the synchronicities and everything that was happening while I was there brought me to literally Russell Simmons' Christmas dinner party at his house in Bali, like on Christmas Day. And who's sitting next to me? Shayna Hiller. And she and I like connected briefly, but there was something lingering. There was an energetic like cord still there. And I came back to California where I'm at right now. And I, for some reason, felt pulled to message her and just be like, hey, what are you working on right now? I'd love to like support and just share whatever I can do. And she was like, oh yeah, I have this retreat in Bali. And I'm like, what? Okay. And I started sharing it. And then the more I looked at it, I felt my soul go like, hey, this is next for you. And I started talking to her about that. And then I reached out again and I was like, hey, do you need an assistant or something? Can I support in some way? Like if I come there to your retreat? She's like, oh yeah, I'm all set with assistants and blah, 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 blah. But we could talk about collaborating and creating something together down the line. And I had this idea for a retreat myself in Costa Rica, and I'm doing another, and like all this stuff. And then all of a sudden the next day she hits me up saying her assistant is no longer going. And now all of a sudden I am going. And I'm like, I didn't anticipate going back to Bali so soon. And I just feel like you just know when someone is brought into your experience and you're meant to work with them or you are meant to create something with them. And I believe that's also why I was drawn to you. And we connected because something came to me when I was listening to you speaking at Jolie's challenge or on Jolie's challenge. Holistic sexuality came to me. And it's like this honoring of wisdom of ancient sex positive societies and embracing the mind and the body and the spirit and heart connections and like feeling your life force as the soul that you are versus the shell that you're in, but like celebrating the shell that you're in as well. And I don't know, I feel like there's something that gets to be birthed in some way down the line. I have no idea what it's going to look like, but and maybe it's the retreat that I'm hosting in Costa Rica at Brave Earth, April 2024, where maybe you get to come and help me to bring this to life. And what I'm going to be learning and being certified and trained in and observing and experiencing with Shayna at her retreat is this full sensual embodiment, tantra, like all of this, I get to really elevate where I'm at, and some new version of me gets birthed that creates something that will call the who I'm meant to serve next to rise. Because like you said, you're a few steps ahead of the person that you're supposed to be helping, right? So
Yeah.
originally I was helping people that like have ideas or feel stuck, or their fear of judgment, or they don't know their purpose or whatever, and they're just stuck. And I'm still helping those people, but now it's like a different level. It's a different layer, because as I evolve, who I'm attracting is also evolving, and who
Yeah.
I'm meant to serve is a whole different level. So it's like this journey that you talked about. It's like just paying attention to your body and your inner wisdom, and not numbing yourself, like activating that life force. And it, for me, started, you're asking about the turning point, and I can't believe I actually am getting there. um,
I
but
love this.
I love you. I really do. I adore you to pieces. And it's like, it's basically like, for me, it was this documentary I watched in 2010. It's called Food Matters. And it connected these dots for me that I had no idea was going on in the world of like the food system and pharmaceutical and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh my God, I'm being poisoned. Holy shit. They're not going to get me. That's
Yeah.
how it started for me. They're not going to get me. And so I became hyper conscious of what I was putting in on. Then it evolved and it became like, oh, well, I have this crazy, intense, amazing mind clarity. Holy crap, my intuition. Like, what? Whoa, I'm kind of psychic. I'm like predicting things, and they're turning out to be true. And I'm reading your thoughts and what you're thinking, what you're feeling, just by looking at your face and feeling your energy. And then how I was guided to Bali was like in 2020, I had left a toxic relationship and moved out on my own. Literally, new pandemic just happening. And it's like, yeah, the logical thing would be to stay, because it's safer and financially secure to stay. But my light was getting dimmer and dimmer day by day, and I had to leave. And so I packed my things, got an apartment, and not just any apartment, but one that would elevate the fuck out of my soul, my energy, like activate my life force, because your environment either helps you to thrive, or you feel like you're barely surviving.
Yep.
And that's a huge part of the holistic living thing. It's like, does your space light you up? Do you feel good when you come home? Are you like desperate to get the hell out of the house? Or do you like find it hard to leave your house because it feels so good? Like that actually has a big, big, big impact on how you show up. And so then it's like, oh, okay. I felt inspired after I left that relationship, moved into this place. It's a pandemic. I'm like, I have to show up and put all my fears aside, because I'm being called for something. I don't know what it is. I don't have the clarity, but clarity comes from action. Here's how I show up. Let me just take the first step. And that evolved into like the health thing, like, oh, am I a health coach? Am I a relationship coach? Am I a mindset coach? What am I? And I ended up in Bali, and like, it was like, oh, you're hosting a retreat in Bali. I'm like, wait, what? How? Who? What are you talking about? Like, this download just came to me. It's like, yeah, you're doing a retreat in Bali in 2020. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. And 2021 came and went. And then I made a wait list. Like, that was the baby action I took, the baby step I took. I just created a wait list. And then like 13 people signed up on my wait list. And I was like, I know nothing about retreats, but I was just trusting and going with the flow and listening and tuning in and taking these little baby steps, seeing what works, seeing what felt good. And then before you know it, I'm freaking hosting a retreat in Bali. I had never been to Bali before. Like, no less, like creating a retreat from scratch by myself. Then I got certified as a yoga teacher. I got certified in level 1 and 2 Reiki. I'm just going with the flow and being guided and trusting. And it's scary and exciting. And just like, I'm still in a lot of ways unclear, but I just keep going and going and going like the fucking Energizer Bunny. I don't know what to tell you.
I love it. And the beautiful thing is, like, when it's in flow, like, it doesn't feel like you're going to wear yourself out like an Energizer bunny. It's like, it's all in flow. It's all like the energy just flowing through. So it's not coming from this place of like exhaustion. And I really love that you spoke into that piece of just like taking the next step. Like, I don't know if it's just me being an earth sign or if this relates to everyone, but like, if I try to focus too much on like the bigger goal, like the bigger long-term thing, like I get way too in my head and nothing gets done. Like, it's really just about focusing on like, what is the thing that I get to do today to get me closer? And if it's like creating a wait list or writing like a quick little bit of copy to talk about something new or whatever it is. Like it's just one step at a time. And I love that. And I also love that like this is just the beginning. Like I love this conversation. I love you. Like it feels like I'm talking to an old friend, but this is like our first conversation ever. It's amazing. So yeah, I think that the listeners have like so much more to look forward to in this space and from us. And I feel like we're kind of like getting to the end of our time. So I'm curious if there's anything else that you want to touch on, or if we should maybe share a little bit more about where people can find us and what we're doing in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I feel really good about that too. And it's so beautiful to connect with you. I think that you're just a beautiful light shining so bright right now, and your gorgeous uniqueness, authenticity, just all of it is just so beautiful to witness. And I want you to remember this, like anytime that you feel discouraged or in any way, shape, or form doubting yourself and that imposter syndrome, like this is for you, Leola, but everyone listening, because I even experienced this and this is for me too. It's like that imposter syndrome, the doubt will always creep back in, but you just have to remember that what you're doing is not for you. It's not about you. It's
Yep.
literally for the people that you're called to serve, and not showing up is selfish. You're keeping your beautiful light and your energy and your sacred contract of why you even came here. It's for it to be shared. And that is how the unfolding continues to unfold. And I would absolutely love to have you back on my podcast. I think that there's so much to talk about and unpack. And like, I think it'd be really powerful to go deeper into Tantra. And like, I want to learn so much from you. And yes, please like share how we can find you, what you're offering right now. I know that I personally would like to be your naked sushi model next time you have a party. And also, I feel really pulled to come to one of your events as a guest as well. So, because I know I went to your Instagram and I clicked on your links and I was like, I want to go to all of these things.
Yay. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to connect in real life for sure. And thank you for adding that last bit about imposter syndrome. I think it's so easy for us to take our purpose personally, and it really isn't about us. It's like the message is really just God moving through us. And that's something that like I make a practice of, is like just asking God to take over, to come into my body, which I used to be super resistant towards. And it took a long time to heal that relationship of surrendering to something bigger than myself. But yeah, it really isn't about us. So thank you for sharing that. In terms of things that are coming up and going on, yeah, so you spoke into events. Everything can be found at talktantra2me.com. I love events. Events are like my favorite thing. Retreats. There's all of those things under the events tab. I also work with people one-on-one. You can click on the work with me tab to see like both virtual and in-person options. I work with men, I work with women, I work with couples. It's very much tailored to the individual. Yeah, those are some of the things that are coming up. I'm writing a book. It's not out yet, but that's something to look forward to. And then, yeah, I also obviously have a podcast, Talk Tantra to Me, for those that are listening on Rita's space. But yeah, I'm so excited to continue connecting with you. I definitely think that like we get to figure out some sort of co-creation, and then get to hop back on the podcast and talk about it and share it. And yeah, cool. So how do we find you? What are you offering?
Yes. So my Instagram is raw vegan Rita, and I have a group coaching program, membership, community that is just such a beautiful, intimate container where everyone feels so safe to actually be raw and real and vulnerable without fearing judgment, and just literally crying your eyes out if you need to, getting the support that you need. It's just such a powerful, beautiful container. And the people that joined when it like at its inception are still with me. So that says a lot. And people that leave come back. It's so powerful. And it's we meet on the first Thursday of every month. So that's actually coming up. I don't know when this will be aired, but it's every first Thursday of the month. And it's just like, it's my baby. It's my little favorite thing to show up for. And I will keep it going for the rest of my life. And I don't know, like, it's just, it just makes me so happy to be able to to share a space with people where they get to really, truly allow themselves to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And so
gorgeous.
thank you. And I do work one-on-one. I'm actually flying out to Boston for a 4-day long weekend intensive with a client. And yeah, so I do retreats as well. And I have one coming up in April 2024 in Costa Rica at Brave Earth, which is just this beautiful, magical, fertile land where you live off of the land. And I'm calling it nature, nurture, and nostalgia to like really bring you back to what it is to be human.
Yummy.
Experience the juiciness of what it is to be in nature and like connect with your soul and with others. And just, I just feel really, really connected to that. And I may even do another one in Bali in November for my birthday. We'll see. So, but yeah, I'm just like you. I love events. I love retreats. I love connecting with people and working one-on-one and traveling and all of that. So I definitely see us creating something together too. But yeah.
Yummy, yummy. I'll add one more thing for your listeners and for my listeners who may not be aware. I also have a couple of free offerings besides the podcast. If you go to www.talktantratome.com/free, there's a free sexual shadow work workbook and a pleasure positive meditation. So that's a way just to get a taste into this work as well. But yeah, this
juicy. I also, by the way, for your listeners and mine, I do have a juice cleanse activation that's also I'm giving for free now. And I have a workbook that I created for my retreat guests that I'm giving away for free now. It's called Soul Therapy. So happy to give that to whoever feels called to it. But yeah, thank you so much, Leola. You are just a gem. I appreciate you. I adore you. And I'm so glad we connected. And I can't wait to see you in person at some point and what reason we were connected divinely to birth into this world to support humans.
Yeah. And thank you so much for following your flow and initiating this conversation. It was so nourishing. And I also just want to say thanks to the listener. Thank you for opening yourself up to holistic sexuality. So yeah, have a beautiful day and we'll catch you next week.
Love it. Thanks, doll.